This is LettuceK, the leader of the law and the person who was supposed to be king, until Parrot dethroned him, and I believe that he is the person that's gonna change the course of the civil war. But to understand why, you need to know what kind of player LettuceK actually is, because most people think that LettuceK was evil from the start, which couldn't be further from the truth. LettuceK did not start powerful. He started trapped in the corrupt capital city, forced to mine with no way out, until Parrot showed up and freed everyone there, including him. That is the detail nobody talks about. The same man LettuceK spent an entire season trying to destroy is the man who gave him his first shot at freedom. And that dab never went away. We will get back to that. After Parrot freed him, LettuceK built the Law, an organization meant to protect players and serve justice on the server. And for a while, that is exactly what it was. But somewhere along the way, protecting people stopped being enough, because the power that came with it started feeling more important than the mission. So LettuceK, the sharpest mind this server has ever seen, turned the law into a machine for control instead. He captured Wemmbu, he hunted flamefrags across the server, and had him exiled from his own base. He executed a player named Spectacle, with an anvil live in front of the whole server as a warning to anyone watching. He talked Minute into handing over the end dimension. He built an army of thousands, most of them poorly equipped players he was willing to let die, because leading thousands looked powerful even when those thousands were losing. And through all of it, he was never reacting to events, he was ahead of them, just like the director, which is what made him so dangerous. He ran a server-wide election and had 7,000 more votes than Parrot. He nearly won it the right way, and when that started slipping, he declared himself the leader and took control anyway. Most players on the server have never even come close to what LettuceK built, so when it all collapsed, it was not because someone outplayed him strategically. His own deputy ace turned on him at the most important moment to save Parrot, and his army got taken apart in the final battle. He ended up on that battlefield with nothing but a chestplate, and when he accepted it was over, he did not run. He walked back into the fight and surrendered, and asked them to kill him. Parrot spared his life. Wemmbu, the same player LettuceK had captured, imprisoned, and hunted for an entire season, let him live too. LettuceK was locked up in the Northern Council under mining fatigue, which was the exact same punishment he once used on Wemmbu. And before that cell closed, he looked at Parrot and said, "The server is too far gone now, and it will never be united again." He has been sitting in that prison watching himself be proven right ever since. Now let's talk about the Civil War, because the situation Parrot is in right now is bad in a way most people are not fully tracking. After Parrot became king, he opened spawn to thousands of new players, which stretched resources so thin that food shortages spread across the entire kingdom. The old players, the veterans who had spent months building everything on the server, watched what they created get overwhelmed overnight, and that resentment became CinderCrest. Parrot leads CinderCrest, and his army is not weak. These are experienced players, most of them in full netherite, united by one belief that Parrot ruined the server by opening spawn. Parrot himself lost his closest friends to bandit attacks after being forced out of capital city, because there was not enough food left for everyone. So this is personal for him in a way that goes beyond ideology. CinderCrest opened the war by taking Fort Feather using a giant redstone blimp, which Parrot did not see coming, and even though he adapted at Merchant City and destroyed the blimp strategy with an anti-air cannon, CinderCrest kept moving and hit Highwater City next, which controls 80% of the food supply for the entire kingdom. Parrot built arrow cannons to hold them back, and it was working until Wemmbu showed up alongside Arachnid, a third party who joined the war with no interest in old players or new players, only in seizing power for himself. Wembu's Arbor Strike cannon helped CinderCrest win that battle, and it leveled the entire city, and now Parrot's food supply is gone, Highwater is in enemies' hands, and the kingdom is starving while CinderCrest pushes deeper. What makes this even harder for Parrot is that he saw it coming, and still could not stop it. He had Wemmbu in his sights during that battle, tried to warn everyone and get his army out in time, but Arachnid had already positioned Wemmbu perfectly. and there was nothing left to do. Losing Highwater City was a message to every player still on Parrot's side that even his best defenses are not enough when wemmbu is pointed at them. That loss shook the kingdom in a way that Fort Feather never did, because Fort Feather was just a battle. Highwater was the foot. And now Parrot is sitting in a crumbling kingdom with a starving population, a two-front war, and no clear path forward, which is exactly the moment a player like LettuceK becomes the most valuable person on the server. Most people look at this and see a war Parrot is losing, but what they are missing is that Parrot has LettuceK in prison. Think about what LettuceK actually has that nobody else in this war has. He captured wemmbu and held him for an entire season, which means he understands exactly how wemmbu thinks and what drives him. He hunted flamefrags long enough to know how flame operates under pressure, and before being locked away he looked Flame in the eye and asked him to change, which visibly shook Flame enough that Flame told him he would try. That conversation clearly got through in a way that nobody else has managed, so that door is still open. And on top of all of that, LettuceK owes his life to both Parrot and wemmbu, because they had every reason to execute him and chose not to, which means that Dapt is sitting at the top of his ledger every single day he is in that prison. Parrot has already visited LettuceK once. LettuceK mocked him and told him the kingdom would collapse, but Parrot is running out of moves, and the one person who has consistently been right about where the server is headed is the one person behind bars. So Parrot goes back, and this time LettuceK listens differently, because the two people who spared his life are both losing a war that is about to hand the server to Arachnid, a player who operates exactly the way LettuceK used to, and LettuceK knows better than anyone what that looks like from the inside. If LettuceK gets out, the first thing he does is rebuild the law, not the dictatorship version, but the network, because the people who genuinely believed in the original mission of protecting players are still on the server. Circus Maximus tried to rebuild law in that direction, and it was working before it lost momentum. So the foundation is already there. LettuceK built that organization from nothing once, and he knows every corner of it, which means rebuilding it is not starting over. It is plugging back into something that already exists and pointing it at the right target. Even a fraction of what the law once was changes the troop count on Parrot's side dramatically, and more importantly, it changes how the rest of the server reads the war. Then he goes to flamefrags, not as Parrot's messenger but as himself, the person with enough shared history to actually get through. He does not argue about new players versus old players because that argument does not work on Flame. He makes Flame see one specific thing, which is that Arachnid winning this war does not fix the starvation Lomedy cares about, it just changes who controls the suffering. And with Arachnid holding wemmbu as a weapon, the server becomes something far worse than anything Parrot built. Flame is not fighting for justice right now. He is fighting to hand power to someone who does not care about any of the reasons Flame joined, and LettuceK is the only person credible enough for that to land. Nobody else on the server has enough history with Flame to say that and have it mean something. Wemmbu is the final piece, and you might think Wemmbu has every reason to reject anything LettuceK says given their history, but LettuceK does not need Wemmbu to trust him. He just needs Wemmbu to see that Arachnid is using him as a weapon, and the moment Arachnid gets what he wants, Wemmbu has no value to him anymore, and he will kill Egchon. LettuceK spent his entire career thinking like Arachnid, using people as tools and discarding them when they were no longer useful. So when he describes exactly how Arachnid sees wemmbu, it is not a guess, he is describing himself. That kind of honesty from someone who lived it is harder to ignore than anything Parrot could ever say. If all of this happens, the war breaks. A rebuilt law army changes the numbers overnight. Flamefrag switching sides removes CinderCrest's strongest fighter and sends a message to every veteran player still following Separata. Wemmbu flipping away from Arachnid exposes Arachnid completely, because his entire power is built on fear and control, and the moment that cracks, the players under him have every reason to walk. The old players inside CinderCrest who joined because they genuinely believed in something will start asking whether Separator is actually building a better server or just handing it to someone worse. That question spreading through CinderCrest's ranks while LettuceK, flamefrags, and wemmbu are all standing on Parrot's side does not slow the war down, it poisons it from the inside. LettuceK said the server was too far gone. He said it would never be united again, and maybe he was right about the problem. But the reason I think he changes this war is that he is the only person left who has the mind, the network, and the personal history with the two most powerful players on the wrong side to actually do something about it. The man who almost destroyed the server might be the only one who knows how to save it, and the most interesting part is that Parrot already knows it too, because he already walked through that prison door once. The question is whether he goes back before it is too late. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and dropping a like on this video. Anyways, goodbye!